What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hot Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Roshan, alongside my co-host, as always, Keaton Onamacher.
What's up, guys? We're glad to be back. We're talking Twins and Jays here. We got lots of moves to go over. We got some cool rumors and stuff to go over, and yeah, we're ready to get into it.
Yeah, well, more, instead of rumors, we actually have confirmed um, acquisitions for both our teams, which we're really excited about.
Absolutely.
Something that we haven't been able to start since we've had this pod up, so
Finally.
very interesting. So, without further ado, we'll go with our first move. We're going to start with the Twins, who yesterday acquired Christian Vazquez. Keaton, I know Keaton's got some notes on it.
Yeah. Well, just like you said, our teams have been taking a little too long to make some moves, and it's been pissing us off. It's like we've been watching all these big names go off the board left and right.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, the funny thing is, since we created this podcast, which was about a month ago at this point, and we thought it was just going to be like a flurry of moves, maybe even at the winter meetings, or, we thought the Jays were going to be super aggressive, and it's so ironic that our teams made moves for the first time. I guess Kevin Kiermaier was before,
really late.
But really late and on the same day, which is really interesting.
It worked out nice.
It did.
Well, the reason why I like this deal is because last year the Twins really, really struggled with catching defense, like really bad. So, to put it in perspective, Gary Sanchez was behind the plate he was behind the plate 80 games out of 162.
Jeez.
Now, people think, yeah, he's your backup catcher. He's going to play half the league. No, not for the Twins. They were hoping he was going to be like a DH backup catcher here and there. They were going to use a third catcher. And so when Jeffers got hurt last year, we were putting Sanchez behind the plate for half the season, and it was bad. So that was a big issue. And so, yeah, I think Vazquez is going to help out with that. And just so people know, prior to this signing, the Twins were projected to have the 25th WAR in the entire MLB, according to Fangraphs. So without Vazquez, we were projected to have the 21st. No, wait. Okay, hold on. Let me backtrack. The Twins catchers were projected to have the 20. Yeah, not the Twins. The Twins catchers group was projected to have the 25th worst WAR. So now Vazquez bumps them all the way up to 15th. So, we're good. We've secured our catcher's position now. We're about league average, elite defense. So let me go into that elite defense now. Vazquez, since 2020, is 6th in defensive runs saved.
Yeah, he's very elite defensively.
That's
that's his whole entire game. I mean, to the degree of, catching, he reminds me kind of like he's a better Austin Hedges, but he gives me kind of the same player profile of it's defense first, obviously, which catchers have been. In the past, a bunch of great catchers. Mm-hmm. First one, that comes to mind, obviously, is like Yadier Molina of at least recent times, where it's, defense first, and you go from there, where obviously a lot of catchers have jumped into the offensive categories now, where
this
it's like
guy not so much.
Right.
But that's what you're getting, yeah.
Right, but I mean it in a way of where that's what primarily catching has become. So it is nice to see a guy who's fundamentally a catcher as, like back in the old days.
Yeah, and he himself is just an elite pitch caller. So, he's a veteran guy. He's been with tons of different staffs, with Boston particularly. He's been with so many cool, just unique pitchers, like Porcello and Sale, and even back in the day, who else did they have with Boston? The names are escaping me now, but he's been able to work with such good staffs and lead them to good production. And so his catcher's ERA in the last 4 years, he's 4th in the MLB in catcher ERA.
It's awesome.
That is huge. For the Twins, who have a whole bunch of SP2s and 3s like Sonny Gray and Joe Ryan, we're hoping Vazquez can take them just a tad bit to the next level to keep them just at a sustainable level. You know, we can't keep hovering around league average, below league average. We're hoping that Vazquez can take that pitching staff a little bit higher up.
Yeah, and with his defensive prowess and, the statistics you just mentioned, I'm sure the only avenue from here is to get better in terms of pitching.
And when it comes to pitch calling, Gary Sanchez ranks last.
Oh, yeah, he's awful.
Out of 160 catchers, Brett.
Oh,
he ranks last.
I believe it for sure.
And we had him behind the plate for 80 games, calling pitches. So that just, I think that's something Twins fans don't look at. They just look at pitching sucks, the Pohlads don't want to spend on pitching. Well, no, let's look at some other things. Our catchers, like Gary Sanchez, are the worst pitch callers in the MLB, and they're the ones telling our pitchers what to throw.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it.
That's huge. And when I thought about that, I was like, wow, here I am bitching and moaning about the pitching when really there could be some other, holes to plug here. So
now let me ask you, do you think this is going to be a platoon situation with him and Jeffers? Do you think one DHs? Obviously, Vazquez needs to be behind the plate as much as possible.
Yeah.
But do you think Jeffers now switches to DH and then
I think
on
Jeffers
off day he fills in, or what do you think goes on there?
I think it'll be kind of like a 1A, 1B type thing. Vazquez will be behind the plate as much as they can. But against lefties, I think it'll always be Jeffers.
Behind the plate?
He mashes lefties.
So do you think they'll do like a DH type thing?
Maybe.
And Vazquez doesn't even play against lefties, or do you think?
No.
Yeah,
I guess to go off of that. Now that I'm thinking about it, they'll just play Jeffers against lefties when they can, but if they could, they'll have Vazquez in as much as they possibly can.
Right. Yeah.
Now that I think about it.
And obviously, with there being catchers, I know
Jeffers is young, so.
Yeah, and I also that feeds into it, and I think Christian Vazquez, I don't know his statistics on games played and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he's rarely out.
Yeah, no, he has the fourth most games of any catcher since 2019.
So there you go.
So he's durable, he's healthy, which is what this team needs.
It's extremely important in the catching
especially for the Twins.
Yeah, with injury history, Mitch Garver throwbacks, and
God, yeah. Well, that's another perfect example of our catching not going to plan. He's an injury-prone catcher. What good is a silver slugger if he's only going to play?
I was going to say he's very obviously Gary Sanchez is worse, but he's a Gary Sanchez prototype.
Yeah, right.
Mitch Garver for sure.
In the end, right. He turns out to be Gary Sanchez most of the times. Right. And another thing the Twins struggled with was throwing runners out. They were in the bottom third of this category. I believe they were 21st. This is Jeffers' main weakness is throwing. Jeffers is really good at calling games. He's really good at blocking, but he sucks at throwing.
It's definitely a weakness.
Yeah, and when you have to throw, and also the bases are getting bigger next year.
That's true. That is true.
So, and if the Twins already suck at throwing guys out, and the bases have gotten bigger, they're gonna start sending more base stealers on us for sure. So we gotta address that issue, and get a guy who can throw better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? If the bases are getting bigger, they're going to think, let's run on the Twins even more.
Well, they would have, I feel like, thought that, but now if you're looking in the scouting report, it's maybe let's not think that
Vazquez.
Yeah, maybe let's not think about that. Us. Just because, and I know, Vazquez does. Yeah, he does some. He's not the flashiest guy. He's not a guy who's necessarily, Kevin on the podcast, last week was talking about a Wilson Contreras, throws behind guys at first. I don't know if he's going to be one of those guys, but he's definitely a guy who, if you run on him, will gun you down.
Yeah.
110%.
And if you're thinking about it, he'll know that he'll see you jumping over there.
Yeah, he's smart. I mean, you can't have those statistics without being smart. Catching is all about, it's those brainiacs on the field.
I can't wait to see what he does. I mean, because we got guys like Winder, Varland, Simeon Woods Richardson, and then guys like I said, Ryan, Ober, Gray, Paddock, Maeda.
Balazovic or whatever.
Yeah. And then guys in the bullpen, Jackson, Duran. I think Vazquez, since he's here for 3 years too, he's going to really absorb those guys and take them under his wing. and he's going to really, like, teach him, like, look, I got your back now. You don't got a young catcher back there now.
Yeah, and that's very nice. That's very nice for, those young guys who also, Griffin, kind of like a Griffin Jacks, he doesn't really know what he is yet. He just knows.
He just knows he can be a good bullpen pitcher, and he can get better. But you're not going to get better with Jeffers behind the plate every year of your career, and he's constantly hurt. This is just such a good addition for the whole staff, I feel like.
And when you think about it, the difference between it is, Jeffers and Jacks, just as an example, are learning together, and now
that creates chemistry.
It's Vazquez, but now Vazquez is, okay, I know what I'm doing. Now you're the only one learning, and you can only have an advancement in your pitchers because they don't have to learn what the catcher's learning as well. Does that make sense?
I get you.
They're both learning at the same time, causes conflict. When now you got Vazquez who doesn't need to learn, he knows what he knows.
And then those two guys can kind of sit back and kind of take notes on Vazquez.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right.
Yeah, he's thrown out the second most base stealers since 2018. So that's crazy good.
It is insane.
And then he's got the fourth quickest catch and release time. So, I mean, you just factor all these things in. I mean, he is everything you want as a backstop. Now, as a hitter, I think, most catchers are either home run hitters or they hit 200. This guy, he hits about 250, but doesn't hit homers. So it's kind of like a mix of a prototypical catcher. You got the really good defense, but then just a solid average league bat. Doesn't suck, doesn't hit crazy home runs, but he'll hit you 250, I'm so used to Gary Sanchez already hitting 210, but hitting 15 bombs, like those bombs are great when they happen. But what about
But when they don't.
What about 215? You're striking out 3 times a game. I think Vazquez will put the ball in play. He's had clutch home runs with Boston, where like he's come up in like crazy clutch times.
He's done it against us. He's done it against the Jays for sure. That guy used to eat us up. I don't know specific statistics against us.
Yeah.
But I just remember
the Rays wanted him, so kind of good that he didn't go to the Rays.
Yeah, I want that guy out of my division.
Yeah.
I mean, there was something about him. I remember he walked us off a couple times.
Probably. He has so many clutch hits that I just know he has. I can't remember specifics, but like he has that reputation.
I will say before you go any further, obviously power we established wasn't necessarily his strong suit.
Yeah, it was just fine.
I'm sure, you do have to look at, not that I'm discrediting him in any way, but 250 is different when it's at Fenway, just for the reason that, you got the wall to knock off of. Yeah. And the reason I brought up power is just because, obviously, if he had a specific amount of home runs, you'd obviously have to, be realistic and dim those a little bit back.
Yeah.
But since it's not even his game anyways.
Right. We're just hoping he can hit 240, 230.
Yeah. Yeah, there is going to be a little bit of a decline probably in the average and the bat, but at the same time, hovering around the average.
Yeah, he'll battle at the plate. He'll draw walks. And it's fine. He'll be at the end of the lineup. So I think the biggest thing, though, yes, his defense is great. He's a veteran, blah, blah, blah. The best part about this guy is that he is very, very good friends with Carlos Correa.
I knew you were gonna bring this up.
They're Puerto Rican friends. They train with all the Puerto Rican guys at the academies. They're buddies with Lopez and Miranda. So I'm hoping that little bit of like chemistry there can lure Correa just in a little bit more.
And it doesn't hurt at the end of the day, but I will say you do see these scenarios a lot of times in baseball where I got fooled myself, with the whole Cody Bellinger thing, with Don Mattingly now being the bench coach. He was his coach,
and with Barrios bringing in Baez.
That was a big thing.
His brother-in-law.
There was also the big thing with off the top of my head. Actually, no, that is actually probably what I was thinking. I think that is what I was thinking of. Yeah, Barrios bringing in Baez. Oh no, what I was thinking of is Springer and Brantley. They're best friends on Houston. Brantley reportedly signs of us but it just ended up that the reporter went too far because he thought that just because of George Springer that it was so much of a connection.
And he signs that 2-year deal with Houston.
Right. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it doesn't play a part.
Yeah,
I do think it does.
It's just something that every Twins fan has to hear.
Right.
They have to hear.
And honestly, when you're talking about a player the caliber of Carlos Correa, you need every fucking step you can get.
Yeah.
Right. You need every little footprint you can get forward, and from there it's like, it's go time for trying to push for him for sure.
Yeah. So that's it for Vazquez. I've already tweeted some stats on his defense and who he is as a player. So if you guys go check us out at the Hot Corner Pod, I have some retweets on there and some original posts as well. But yeah, if you're liking what we're putting out there, hit the subscribe and follow us and leave some comments.
For sure. And if this is your first time listening, as Keaton mentioned, we do have our Twitter page at Hot Corner Pod. Keaton is very active on there with stats and latest Jays Twins information, as well as other big MLB stuff if need be.
Yeah.
We are obviously primarily a Twins Jays podcast, so at the end of the day, if these guys we're talking about on the pod, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about them, we always have rumors, speculation,
and send us
stuff like that.
Yeah, like you said, Jays Twins, but you can send us any MLB stuff. We're always down to talk. But I wanted to move on to the Blue Jays now, because you guys finally got your left-handed bat.
Finally. Or should I say, our Cody Bellinger. That's my favorite.
Yeah. I think you got probably a better player than Bellinger.
Yeah, I agree. And for those of you that know...
Who'd you get?
Yeah, so, again, for those of you that don't know, that's what I was about to say. We acquired Kevin Kiermaier. Was it over the weekend, I believe?
Yeah, he's 33. He's a left-handed outfielder. He's got 3 Gold Gloves, and he missed most of last year. He only played 63 games. So
go
from there.
Let me touch on this as as somebody who really was high on Cody Bellinger for the same reasons. I do believe, even though again I was high on Cody Bellinger, I do believe we got the better player in the end. Yeah. Kevin Kiermaier is the absolute absolutely elite when it comes to center fielders. He's in the top percentile. 100%. He's a at least top 5 off the top of my head fielding wise, and he's scheduled. This is, as I mentioned with Bellinger, this is the move for another move. You still have to get another left-handed bat to replace the Teoscar production.
This move helps you feel good about the next move.
And we talked about the Blue Jays offseason plans were always run prevention.
Yeah. And
we'll follow up on the other move in a moment, but these 2 moves, specifically Kevin Kiermaier, having him in center, moving George Springer, this means he's automatically in right. There's no questions about that anymore.
Yeah.
Which we knew was going to happen, but if we got a right fielder or something, we could have kept George in center.
And be comfortable with it.
Yeah, but now it's a confirmation that George Springer has to move. And Kevin Kiermaier, the contract details aren't out yet, but we do know.
But you're not complaining about him in center.
Absolutely not. No, I am actually touching on what I was telling you about Vazquez in the AL East. I am so happy I don't have to see that guy track down everything in center anymore. I hated seeing the Blue Jays at the Trop. He was great at the Rogers Center, too. He's great. He's such a good defender. I mean, I'm sure you have statistics on him.
Yeah.
And he's super fast. I know you got statistics on speed, which helps the team tremendously.
Yeah.
Because, we are a very slow team. Not slow, but we're very average speed-wise. So
yeah, you're not any trailblazers or burnt or however that term goes.
Yeah, so if you want to touch on his defense for a moment, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so because we said, he was hurt last year, I'm going to go over his 2021. So in 2021 alone, his outs above average, he was 98th percentile. So top 2, top 3. Top 2. And then sprint speed, 95th percentile. So he's in the top 5 to 10 fastest guys in the league.
Yeah, he's a burner.
Then his arm strength is 97th percentile. So the guy just has a cannon. Like, and I looked at his savant pages too from, let's see, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. They all look identical.
Yeah, and I've also
noticed. So you know what you're going to get.
He's consistent. The bat has, however, it's always been league average.
Yeah, well, he's a 98 career OPS plus, so he's literally a career average hitter, which is fine.
But
in my opinion,
this is exactly what we talked about with Bellinger. If you can even bring your bat to an average level with that kind of defense, and he's better at defense than Bellinger, right? So if you can even bring that bat to a league average level and have that defense hit 9th in the lineup or whatever we're going to hit him, and again, a left-handed bat, Lord have mercy, right?
Better than Tapia.
Better than Tapia. And, at the end of the day, I do believe he is Tapia's replacement.
Yeah.
Again, there's more to the puzzle. If anything, this leads us to more. This leads us to more news to come, obviously, but just going off of the three things that you said, you were talking about outs above average, you were talking about arm strength and sprint speed. Think about those three things as a center fielder, even being remotely average at those three things make a great center fielder.
He'll be turning doubles into singles, triples into doubles, and he'll take away a few home runs. And that is a few games right there for you guys at the end of the year. That's a win or two at the end.
It's pivotal. To sum it up, he's running down everything in the outfield. He's gunning guys down wherever we need to, at the plate, at second, wherever they're running on him.
Or he's not gunning them down. He's just allowing them to stay there, and they're not even going the extra base. He's making them have
ginormous, right?
Yeah, I mean, just the thought. I mean, I see it all the time with Kepler. There's a for sure single in the gap that would be like, okay, he'll go from first to third. No, they don't even try. They just put on the brakes. They stop at second. They're like, no. Kiermaier's the same way.
I was going to say that's
you get to the ball. You're like, why do I even try going to third? Stay here.
It's very interesting that you mentioned that because, when you watch a Rays game when he was a Ray for his whole career.
And it just lets your pitchers get out of the inning. It helps them,
Yeah. But when he was a Ray up till this point and you watch the Rays game or, him against any team, you would see that exact type of thing of where, you're seeing them against another team over the weekend taking bases like no tomorrow, and all of a sudden they go to the trop and it's like there's a single, there's a ball in the gap that should be a double, and it's like he runs it down and instantly
it's just first and second now.
Yeah, a lot of teams are very hesitant, as they should be, for the very reasons we just mentioned with statistics on his arm and his his outfield jump and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates such a dynamic in the opponent's head that we can't take the extra base, as you mentioned. We can't, instead of having a guy on second, we have to keep him on first.
Yeah.
We can't be that aggressive. We're throwing, you're playing
and
with
it
fire,
instills
right?
And it instills a confidence in your pitchers also to throw strikes. Because I hear this with Buxton. The pitchers go, yeah, I'm not afraid to throw it high in the zone. If they hit it out to the outfield, I got Buck out there.
Yeah.
You're going to be hearing the same thing. You're going to be hearing Jay's pitchers say, yeah, we're going to pound the high parts of the zone. We're going to try to get them to get a little underneath it because we know we got Kiermaier out there. He's going to be our man. He's going to be tracking them down. Even the bloop singles, he's going to come in and get them. Just hearing that come from your teammates, knowing that their teammate is helping them like that mentally, it's like, wow, that is a game changer.
Different ballgame.
Different ballgame. Totally different ballgame. You're not just a teammate. You're like a brother. You're like out there. You're helping the whole team, and it just those types of guys don't get enough credit.
Before we move any further, this is something that's really cool as a Jays fan because this is the dynamic that we haven't had. We did have Bradley Simmer last year. We had Jackie Bradley, but these guys aren't even comparable.
Tapia.
Right, from a defensive standpoint, though.
Yeah, true.
Defense for the Blue Jays has been something that's been elusive. Bo, is an awful fielder.
Yeah.
That's been well documented. Matt Chapman, finally, so the run prevention side of it. is all of a sudden starting to come to fruition. There's Matt Chapman last year, Kevin Kiermaier, even though he's going to be the fourth outfielder. Vladimir's a Gold Glove. Santiago Espinal is very good at second. It's starting. Obviously, you still got Bo at short, but you're starting to get the puzzles a little bit in terms of defense.
Puzzle pieces,
and puzzle pieces, should I say, and defensive runs saved. So that excites me the most about Kevin Kiermaier. On top of the fact he's a left-handed bat.
Yeah.
League average.
And another good point is the Jays were 25th last year in base running metrics per Fangraphs. They were only 25th. Kevin Kiermaier, since 2014, is the 14th best base runner in all of MLB. That's in the last 10 years.
Yeah, he hasn't slowed down.
That's insane. So, like, even though you guys struggled with base running and everything, having him at the end of your lineup, getting on base for the top of the lineup.
Second leadoff guy.
That is huge. That's huge. And it's good to you're a team like the Blue Jays, everyone wants to talk about your hitting, all these big pitchers you're getting, but I want to know, I like to know that you were 25th in base running and you just got an elite base runner because everyone's going to talk about his glove. Everyone's going to talk about his arm.
And that's, of course, what...
How is he helping the Blue Jays other than his fielding? He is doing a lot more. I really think he'll be a sneaky high WAR player for you guys.
And I agree. And I did actually, I don't think you wrote down the statistic, but I did see a tweet by somebody who was saying on Fangraphs, B-WAR, that he actually had a higher B-WAR than Teoscar Hernandez last year.
Yeah, that's baseball reference WAR.
Right,
yeah.
Which is pretty insane. Obviously, and you have to look at it in a way of, you still need to replace Teoscar Hernandez's bat, but you can even chalk Kiermaier as a replacement just in a different way. It's, you can. This is why the Jays position is really cool with the Teoscar leaving, because you can get creative with how value in baseball is so versatile to the extent of, you could be very creative with it.
Oh, yeah.
Defense,
your limits are not bounded.
Defense, speed, left-handed bat, three things we didn't have that we have now with Teoscar Hernandez on the team, with him now obviously off the team. Still three things we didn't have that we added because we got rid of him. But at the same time, to that degree, I do think there's another move coming. I do think Kiermaier is maybe the fourth outfielder, but we're going to put him out there as much as we can, I think.
Yeah. I think this opens up now. We've talked about the catcher thing and everything, but I think they're going to really go hard for Conforto or something like that now that they got their left-handed bat.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I think Conforto is probably the most likely option.
He's good.
But once we talk about our next acquisition, which is a starting pitcher, you can dig in a little bit more in terms of how it opens up. We can briefly dig in, because we're talking about trading catchers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we'll go from there.
You replaced Ross Stripling. You lost Ross Stripling, who had a great year last year. Had like a 3.5 something ERA, right?
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
3.1 FIP. Yeah.
Yeah, before we go with his replacement, much respect to Ross Stripling. I'm very happy he got the deal he deserved.
He went to San Fran, right?
Right, he went to San Francisco. The guy, for 2 years for $25 million, the guy, his whole career was in the shadows on the Dodgers. When he came to the Blue Jays, he really just wasn't who he thought he was still. He had a couple good years with the Dodgers, but again, he was in the shadows. Then he came to us, kind of fell off a little bit. And, this year we had, Ryu unexpectedly go down. Kikuchi sucked. And Ross Stripling, any lesser pitcher would have folded. He jumped right into the situation. And, he had the best career year, or he had the best year of his career. So a career year. And it was just, I'm very proud of Ross Stripling. Much respect to him. I hope him nothing but the best in San Francisco. But yeah, so we replaced him yesterday with the signing of Chris Bassitt, which I'm super excited about for the reason that I do believe Chris Bassitt is a better pitcher than Ross Stripling.
Yeah.
But, you can't take away what Ross did last year.
Yeah, so just to go off of that point, is he's a better pitcher. I like how you word that because if you look at his Savant page, Bassitt doesn't blow you away with, unbelievable stuff and blazing fastballs. But what he does have, he has 6 effective pitches. 6. He throws a fastball, sinker, changeup, curveball, slider, and I believe maybe, I forget the 6th one, but he throws 6.
The thing that's interesting from that perspective, and when you talk about Ross Stripling's replacement, is it's legitimately a carbon copy. Ross Stripling is the same way. He has the arsenal. He's never going to blow you away. Both of them maybe
His stuff isn't nasty, but it moves.
No. Right. It's major league stuff, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, exactly, it's not, get you off your toes type stuff. And then the main thing with them, both of them, is they rely on location, and they will never blow you away with velocity. Yeah. They're both mid to low velocity guys who are just pure location based.
And because they have a good pitch mix with multiple pitches, they're able to keep the batters in the box guessing. They're able to keep them off balance. They don't know what's going to come because they have 5 other pitches they've got to look for. I didn't look too into his stats on the plate, off the plate, but his sinker is dirty, and if he can ride guys in and jam them with that, oh, man, I think he's going to be dirty.
Oh, yeah, dude. I mean,
Chris Bassitt, he has good horizontal movement, not good vertical movement, so his pitches will jam righties really nice.
Yeah, and to touch on that, in terms of consistency, the thing that I'm really excited about with Chris Bassitt, and I couldn't say the same thing about Ross Stripling, I do believe Ross Stripling won't necessarily fall off. I do think he'll probably stay what he's at.
He'll regress a little.
But probably. He might regress a little too, which is something Chris Bassitt has not done. Chris Bassitt, for the last 5 or 6 years, has been one of the most consistent pitchers in the MLB, which I believe he has on.
Since 2018, he has a 125 ERA plus.
Which is insane.
5 straight seasons, like you said. And then just last year, he was as solid as they come. He had 3.2 baseball reference WAR with a 3.42 ERA. He started 30 games. I mean, that's great. He had a 1.145 whip, which is phenomenal, and then a 3.6 FIP. So he is everything you want in an SP3.
I mean, he's everything you want in an SP2, realistically, but he's obviously not.
But for a team like you, 3 or 4 should be good.
Well, that's what
you have a few guys a little better.
Well, yeah, that's what he's going to be.
For the Twins, he'd be SP2.
For sure.
For you, I'd say 3 or 4.
He's going to be 3 or 4. He might even be 4, depending on where we want to put Barrios. And it's...
So I have for your rotation then, Manoah, Gausman, Barrios, Bassitt, Kikuchi.
I do, however, think it might go the other way with Bassitt and Barrios. But I do see a reality where, Barrios has earned the team's respect enough to be 3.
Yeah.
And either way, regardless of how you do it, I don't care how you do it.
It can't be for money anymore because now Barrios and Bassitt are making...
They're paid.
They're both making 21, I think.
Well, yeah, but...
Exactly.
But I think just however you slice it, you put Barrios in the 3, you put Bassitt in the 3, and the other moves to the 4, it's just, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
You really can't.
Yeah, there's no better way to shape it up. It's going to end up being as solid as it is, yeah.
And that's what I think I'm most excited for it as, a Blue Jays fan looking at how inconsistent we've been specifically on the starting pitching front in years past. Obviously, we're rebuilding, but there's just been specific things that haven't happened with starting pitching that I'm finally happy that we're getting. Not that we didn't get Gausman, not that we didn't get Ryu or Barrios, but at the end of the day, Barrios had that year last year. Kikuchi we tried out had that year last year.
Which I think you're going to give him more chances because...
Who, you say?
Yeah. Well, one, because you don't have another starting pitcher yet to replace him, which you still might get. So as of now, I think they'll give Kikuchi another chance. But if you go get someone else, then clearly they'll move him back to the pen. But because you're paying Kikuchi $17 million, I think they're going to say, let's have him be our 5 and hope that he gives us something because we're paying him a lot.
I will say,
and he's projected to have a 95 ERA plus. That's not horrible for a 5.
I will say though, I just don't think
can live with it.
I get the money aspect of it, But you have to understand that now with the Jays in the position they are in the market they're in, I really don't think they're stressing about it. Obviously the plan is for him to be in the rotation, but at the end of the day, plans don't work out. And
Imagine if he was still really good, though.
No, this guy's got no track record, though. I mean, his track record is one half of the season. Literally one half of the season. And playing in another country. So it's just, his stuff has not translated to the MLB well. Yeah. And he did do not very well, but he did do pretty good out of the pen last year. I was very comfortable with seeing him come in as a long relief option. You know, Mitch White, we realized also wasn't going to work out. And those two are the ones penciled in right now. Is one of them's the 5. I would obviously say Kikuchi over him. Yeah. And also, one thing that Kikuchi is that we do, I think, need now that we have 4 righties would be a lefty starter that does switch it up a little bit. Yeah. Although I don't think that's necessarily you don't need it. It's not a necessity for sure. So to answer your question,
you might want a lefty reliever over a lefty starter.
Yeah, because you can put him in whenever. You can put him in.
And don't you need a lefty reliever?
Well,
you just only have
Meza. Literally, yeah, we only
just
have
want
Meza.
One more.
I think we're gonna go get a lefty reliever. I could see Taylor Rogers as a perfect fit. You know, close out the bullpen. And Taylor Rogers.
And I don't care what anyone says about him in his last year. His FIP and his expected statistics were right there. He just got crushed in a few games, and it inflated his ERA.
I think he would be a perfect option. Another guy that comes to mind who's on the free agent market is someone we've talked about off audio before, Andrew Chafin. You know, I think he would be an awesome...
Such an underrated arm.
And it's just, yeah.
And he's a guy who, like, is on every team at the deadline, and you somehow hear a report about Chafin going to the Yankees, going to the contenders, and it's like, why didn't we think of him?
Yeah, and he goes for like $3 million.
$3 million, yeah, and it's like, why? Yeah, so yeah, those types of guys. We'll see how that opens up everything for the Jays, and looks like they got a good replacement there with Stripling back. I like it.
Yeah, I do think our replacement is better than the product we put out last year. I do think, you know, with Chris Bassitt over Ross Stripling, we have a better rotation by all means. I just don't think we're done here.
No.
And, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully by the next time we do our next pod, it'll be another few moves made.
Yeah, and something very exciting with the Blue Jays that has not much to do with the episode, considering we're talking about acquisitions, but I do want to throw it out there because we could be talking about this ASAP with how the catching market's moving. With the acquisition of Kiermaier and the acquisition of Bassitt, we are now starting to think of ways we got to sign somebody and trade a catcher for somebody.
That's why you should sign Conforto, trade a catcher for a pitcher. Boom, it's easy.
Yeah, but
you don't even need to get super creative.
That is true, but it's not going to be creative. It's going to be either
Conforto is the perfect fit.
I agree, but at the same time, I think you can get better options at the catching just because you don't want to trade one of our elite catchers for an SP5, right?
Yeah, it would have to be
would have to be somebody who's a 2 or 3. You know, like a Bassitt, another Bassitt.
You might even throw in another prospect to get whatever you might.
Exactly, and I am completely open to bolstering that rotation. I think that Bassitt move does that, but at the same time, if that 5 is somebody who's
ruins all your winning streaks and can't keep it together,
right? But no, I mean it more in a way that that 5 is somebody, you know, if Bassitt's the 5 or Barrios is the 5. Think about it in that reality, where you bring in a guy like a 2 or a 3 to the point of where they bump those guys down. That's really crazy to think about, and that's rotations that 1 have depth, 2, you know, you see all the winning teams have types of that you gotta go that deep. I mean, the Astros are the first thing that comes to mind. Deep depth in the rotation for the Astros is just like
unfair.
It's unfair, right? And you know they lose Verlander, and I don't even think they're worried about it.
No, they have a whole bunch of SP2s
that they can just slot in
over and over again.
And another thing that does, and you know, this is pretty interesting when you talk about a lefty in the bullpen. I do think we obviously should add one, but it does move Kikuchi to the bullpen, so you do have a lefty in that way. So
right,
it's not just Meza.
Right, then you don't need to get a lefty. You can just move Kikuchi there, and it saves some dollars.
Exactly.
It's like there's so many things that move other things around, and it's like I That's the beauty of the off season. It's the best.
For sure.
People think I'm crazy when I say this, but I sometimes say like I legitimately love the off season more than the regular season.
I don't know if it, maybe that's a little bit,
maybe not more, but you know what I mean.
It's a completely different aspect. I'll tell you that much. It's teams need to make moves. You know that your team is going to, address the needs they have. And I think the fun part of it. Yeah, and I think the fun part of it is creativity in it. You can address so many issues in so many different ways. We have the blessing of having catchers out the wazoo, so we're able to, figure out a way, which we still haven't, but we're still trying to figure out, a way to make that work. Bring in a left-handed bat, bring in another pitcher, whatever we need to do, and I think it's just fun to watch your team create, the team they want to, in the product they want to put out in the field, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we should wrap it up here. But this is another good session. And again, if you guys are liking what you're hearing, hit that follow and subscribe. Me and Brett are going to post this up pretty soon. If you want to comment on some of our comments and let us know what you think, we'll be right on Twitter to talk baseball with you. So, you want to say anything?
Yeah, and if there's some stuff that if any of you Twins Blue Jays fans or even just MLB fans out there, have in mind of stuff we can, topics we could cover, or just, things you'd like to know a little bit more about, I think it...
Hit us up.
Hit us up. Yeah, the world is the world for this podcast is endless possibilities.
Yeah, we're trying to come up with new stuff, reach new people. So, hit us up, and we'll keep connecting.
Yeah, we'll see you in, I believe, episode 7.
Yeah, episode 7 next week. So,
Alrighty.
Cool. See you guys.
Thanks, guys.